Hi, in this episode I'll be talking to Robbie Schmittner, the explorer and adventurer who is responsible for some of the most notable contributions to cave exploration over the last 20 years. Over at BREW, Robbie talks me through Sidemount diving in the flooded caves of the Yucatan peninsula and his Xunaan Ha all-girl expedition to explore the Holbox fracture. Do you fancy a brew?
How's it going, mate?
Hey, sorry, I just found your link on Instagram. You're like, oh, how do we connect?
Mate, the time difference is horrendous, isn't it, to try and make arrangements sometimes?
Sure.
So, Robbie Schmittner, welcome to Fancy a Brew podcast. Have you got a cup of tea, cup of coffee?
Well,
Ace, what you on?
coffee.
Ace, how's it going? Are you busy then?
Not really, no. We're completely still stroked by that corona thing. And
yeah. We just got locked down again yesterday. As of tomorrow morning, the government has locked us, like the region I live in England.
Where's that?
You heard of Manchester, Liverpool?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I'm sort of in the northwest of England.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us a little bit of an intro to you? How you got into diving and that, and see where it goes?
I was a hobby diver. I was like learning diving in Germany, cold lakes and that kind of stuff. And then we went to the Mediterranean Sea, but it was a fascinating hobby. And my instructor, who was living in Germany, who was married to a Mexican wife, they always had the idea, oh, let's go to Mexico at some point and open a dive shop. And that point, or that time came in 98.
Yeah.
And as I had a friendship with him already, and I was working at the shop as a dive master, I had to go and see where they went. And they came here to Tulum. And I had to visit, and he said, oh, when you visit then you have to do a cave course. It's like the best thing you've ever do. It's the best, like so different to anything else. And he was so right. I came here and did that course, and during the course I was lost to the caves. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I wanted to come back right away. I didn't want to even leave. And, and then coming back a little later and stayed for a little longer. And then we started exploring already in 98, 99. And there was so much to do. There was still so much cave to be found. At that time, there was about 300 to 400 kilometers of cave known in total. And by now it's 1,600 kilometers of cave known in this region here. Awesome. So it's like growing like crazy, you know. There's like nowhere else in the world you have that much cave found per year, or in that short time since end of the 90s to now.
I suppose you've got the sort of climate for it, haven't you? It's nice and warm and dry generally. You can get on with it rather than if you're somewhere else in the world and it's getting flooded constantly. And
no, conditions are definitely most excellent for underwater exploring. There's no better place in the world.
Yeah.
One, there's so many entrances. There is literally thousands. So you can get underground in many places. In town even, you know, it's like it's everywhere. I'm bored one afternoon. I get in the car and jump in a cave which nobody had been in there before. You know?
Well, I've been watching a few of your videos on YouTube, and some of the actual holes aren't very big, are they? They're big enough for maybe two people to sort of be in the water. They just look so tiny, and then they just open up into.
Well, some of them are that small that you can't even go through by yourself. You have to open them up a little bit, take some rocks out and stuff, and then you be able to squeeze through. Yeah. But then it might open up into huge passage where you can push an airplane through if you would like to somehow for one odd reason, but just to show the size, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the water is warm. The water is crystal clear. Depths are shallow. We get maximum depths, except of some exceptions, of course, of 25 meters max. No, mostly shallow. I would say average of 13, 14 meters. So your tanks, your gas, your brain holds up forever. Like it's perfect. Like the conditions couldn't be better, and the caves are pretty, like amazing. Like going around is like, wow, this is amazing, and nobody else had seen that before.
Yeah, that's a crazy thought, isn't it? That you actually have been somewhere that nobody's ever been.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places left in the world.
No, there's not. So COVID's probably hit you pretty well over there with like the tourism industry and that probably knocking you on the head. So are you still doing quite a lot of diving yourself?
I do, but right now basically only exploration. We don't have any work right now still. The corona, the lockdown shut us down completely, and we had no more tourists here. And the bad thing is that the whole peninsula is living of tourism. There's no other income. And so my last income was about April.
Yeah.
And it didn't get better. We do have people here right now, but mainly from the States, and the tourism coming in right now, they want to go to the beach, partying, that kind of stuff. But no divers yet, or very few, let's say like that.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, we're due to come out in December and do a bit of exploring because we've never been to that neck of the woods. We've never been over there before. We're not cave divers. So, you know, to come and sort of explore the sort of mecca of cave diving is pretty exciting, whether we can get there. Now, we've got to fly with Lufthansa. So we're flying into Frankfurt first and then straight over. Cancun, yeah. But that flight's already been changed once. So, you know,
that's a big problem right now. The flights get changed the whole time, or cancelled, or put into the how's it called? Like rescheduled or whatever.
Yeah.
Like people can't really count on their flights they're buying right now.
It's terrible, isn't it? So, have you had any sort of government support at all?
No, not here. No, not at all. Well, the good thing is here we don't freeze to death. You know, it's warm the whole time, and if it really good, we have rice and beans and stuff, and if it really gets bad, we get down to the beach and get some coconuts. So it's a ride for sure.
I was going to say the jungle's on your back doorstep. The jungle provides everything, doesn't it? So if you had to, you could get by, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that sort of nicely brings me on to the sort of water that you've got there. It's crystal clear and it's pretty clean in most places. But that's kind of why you're investigating the Holbox fracture, aren't you? And the pollution that's coming from the tourism industry that's sort of coming into there.
Yeah, it's a whole big, like the big picture forming itself here in this area. I'm exploring in this area here for 22 years now.
Yeah.
And I can probably say I'm the one who does it for the longest time. There was a first and a second generation of cave explorers here, but many of them have retired or left. And I got to know them. That were my big role models. I was looking up to these people like Bill Phillips, for example.
Right.
Mike Madden, and I got to know these people, and I kept going, exploring, kept going doing this stuff they started, and there's a lot of new people coming. They're coming and going, but I'm pretty sure by now nobody has done it that long. Then
I read somewhere you've put a couple of 1,000 kilometres, a couple of 100 kilometres of lining caves or something.
Personally, I have explored a number around 400 kilometers, I would say.
Right.
Of cave. I have added together of different cave data from all different explorers, a number of about 900 kilometers, which I have added up to one big picture.
Yeah.
And doing that is just amazing because it gives you now ideas, showing, oh, look at that, there's a clear line which separates an area where you have just a river delta of caves underground, and just behind that clear line, there is no more horizontal cave. There's thousands of cenotes, but no more horizontal cave. And that gave me the idea, or that they clearly said that there must be something. There must be something which divides that, and that is probably known, very little known, but already known to some people as the Holbox fracture.
Yeah.
I heard that name first by Jim Coke, who was the really first explorer here in the area, and he told me, yeah, that's out there. There's the Holbox fracture, and it separates horizontal cave and vertical cave, and that was it. Even then, in the first days, I said, but if that is the case, the Holbox fracture should be a cave by itself. And the Holbox fracture is running from the island of Holbox, which is right on the top of the peninsula, all the way down to the neighbor country Belize.
Right.
And I said that must be one cave then, and Jim was laughing and said, yeah, it theoretically should, but yeah, that couldn't be, could it?
Mm.
And it can. That's what I really believe now. The Holbox fracture is a water-bearing cave, and it runs all the way through the peninsula of Yucatan for hundreds of kilometers into the neighbor country, Belize. So I'm looking for that, specifically now for that Holbox fracture, and finding caves which would be part of this. And in several places I have found it, and it's very distinct cave to the others. If you 22 years diving around in this cave, then it's distinct, you know. Yeah. It's in many places big cave, and in some places you can actually really see the fracture in the ceiling, and you only have to follow it, sometimes even in the floor. And in some places the cave is like washed out on the side walls, really phreatic tubes, really round, washed by water. But what is the biggest difference to that cave is the water current. The water runs in a different direction, and the current is stronger than in most of the other caves, which are not right in the fracture.
Okay.
And what was very surprising was actually to see that the water runs from southwest to northeast. So basically paralleling the coastline of the Caribbean Sea on the Mexican side. And I was also wondering, why is that? Why is the water running to the northeast there? We were thinking it would be the other way around, but maybe that's just too simple thinking, you know? It's like, you look at the map, you think
it's going to run downhill,
and water runs down, right? Water doesn't run down.
Yeah.
But no, you have to be careful to not interpret stuff which leads you to the wrong way, you know.
Well, talking to Ranva, she was saying how this expedition that you're planning, the Xunaan Ha, is it going to be a series of expeditions? So is it your plan to go from sort of one end of the fracture and sort of explore it to the other end to end?
Oh wow! No, not really, not exactly like that. Hopefully it will be several expeditions. No, hopefully it will be good to see how Ranva can do, how Ranva is, how's it called, behaving, if I will invite her again. No, just kidding. Hopefully we're going to do a series of expeditions, explorations, searching always to the Holbox fracture. Right now we're going to be placed in one area where I do know there's Virgin Cenotes, and I do know there is, or I do assume the Holbox fracture is running through that area. Okay. So it's strategically placed in that area to find more of the Holbox fracture, but finding the whole fracture will be years and years, and I'm probably not even able to do it in my lifetime, you know. So there is lots of exploring even for coming generations still. No? If things don't get polluted too badly that he cannot go into the caves anymore.
Well, was there talk of them building an airport on top of all this sort of stuff that would have wrecked it?
There is plans for an airport, yes, in Tulum. To my knowledge, the airport is planned behind the Holbox fracture, where it does make most of sense, of course, because you don't have all this network of horizontal cave there. Well, I don't know. That airport, this rumor of the airport was already here when I came here first, 96.
Right.
So that's a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And it was always like, oh, the airport is coming, people come and invest in this area because you will have like a good payback for that. I don't know if that airport is actually true, if it's coming, or if it's just got every couple of years be put on the plate again, so people be happy to invest more in this area. I don't know.
It just sort of makes sense that someone would sort of start mentioning things like that, and then you would get that big investment into the area, and then they go, oh, maybe in a few more years, and then just keep building up. But then this building up of tourism and hotels, I think I'm sure it was on one of your videos. There was like a waste area where they like a rubbish tip, and all that's then obviously degrading in some way into the watercourses, which at some point you're going to be in diving.
In this area here, have to be very, very careful, like where wastewater goes, where you throw your garbage, your waste to. It's just like nothing stays on the top. Nothing. The ground, the limestone we're sitting on is not able to hold up anything which like any liquids. Everything will go down, and if rainwater seeps through the trash, or how's it called, the garbage dump, it takes all the toxins and everything down. It will all seep down into the groundwater. Other things which are really bad is golf courses.
Are they?
They look beautiful, right? Big and green, but you know how many pesticides, fungicides, what is the other stuff called to make it grow? The fertilizers and all that kind of stuff gets thrown daily on that, and then be washed in with the rainwater. Really, really bad. And the biggest problem is in the area here, cities don't have nicely built out, or close to none, wastewater, how's it called, tuberies and stuff, a system.
Well, like a sewerage system.
A sewage system. It's basically not existing, no? So most of houses, most of places have just septic tanks, and they get pumped out once in a while. And many of them are built that they don't fill up, no? So it's a real problem, but that's the biggest problem here. That needs to be taken care of by the government. Absolutely big, it has to. If that doesn't get better, if that doesn't get changed, the area is doomed for sure, because it's growing and growing and more people coming every year. Yeah.
The knock-on effect.
Totally two-edged sword.
Yeah.
Tourism totally is that the whole time.
It's crazy, isn't it? So I want to get on to sort of your exploration. I'm qualified as a solo diver, which I quite enjoy for different reasons, but
can you qualify as a solo diver? So the instructor says, okay, now you by your own, go diving, come back alive, and you get a certification. Or how does that work?
Yeah, so I did it last year. About this time last year, went out and SDI do it. So they talk to you about the redundancy of gases and equipment and whatnot, and the planning of the dive before you get in, as opposed to if there's just two of you, you just say, right, we're going in for half an hour, and you know, you need to have surface cover or surface support. Ring your wife, let her know that I'll be out in half an hour, that kind of stuff.
All right.
So, joking aside, do you, from what I've seen of you on YouTube and different videos, it would appear that you're on your own quite a lot. But are you, or do you have support elements underwater with you?
No, it's just me and my gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but that's the best. I think that's definitely in this kind of diving I'm doing. In many times, it's the best way to go, because sometimes we get to places where the cave is so small that a second diver wouldn't be of help at all. I mean, that's anyway the reason, for example, why side mount gear was invented by cave divers, which saw themselves in caves where it's really small, really silty, where share air isn't an option, but they had to be still kind of safe, having a second possibility, a second regulator where they can change to not being depending on one big tank on the back, or a double tank even on the back. So they came up with this side mount gear, which is, in England they've been diving side mount the whole time.
Yeah.
But it's a safer configuration, especially for small caves, especially for solo diving, because you have two completely independent tanks, so you're not depending on another diver. You know? And often people think, oh, buddy team, I'm diving with my buddy, and then they have this false feeling of safety, because they say, oh, my buddy takes care of me. That can be really bad.
Yeah.
You know? It can be really wrong.
Yeah.
And in a very, very small cave, very silted out cave where you don't even see your buddy and you couldn't reach him because it's too small, he can't turn around, he would not be a help, and the sharing air idea would not be possible. And actually now, when you try to get backwards out of this very silted, very restricted area, your buddy is blocking your way. And he doesn't know that you want to come back.
Can't tell him, can you?
There's no visibility. No. So I think that explains that in some places it is better to be alone. Your buddy can be more of a risk to you in places like that than he can be a help.
Sorry to interrupt this episode to drop another plug for my Patreon account, but I do spend a good 7 or 8 hours producing, editing and launching each episode of this podcast, and sometimes days on the production of my YouTube videos. So to help keep this content strong and valuable to you, I'm asking that you become a sponsor and a patron of the Are You a Scuba Diver Fancy a Brew podcast. When you become a supporter, not only will you have my undying appreciation for helping support the podcast, but you'll be able to take advantage of some of the many tiered benefits that come with it, some of which includes official merchandise. If you'd like to become a patron of the podcast, then visit www.patreon.com/fancyaBrew. There you'll see all the different levels of subscription and how to join the Fancy a Brew community. So without further ado, let's get back to the episode.
Do you find that you've ever got to a sort of a narrowing a really tight restriction, and then it's just been a dead end, and then it's it's quite hard to get back? That's my biggest fear, is I get to a point where I can't turn around and I've not got enough purchase, I can't move my arms to get myself back.
Yep, that happens once in a while. But you got in there, so you get back to.
Yeah, you just have to just relax, don't you, and just calm yourself down.
That's the most important, to control your stress level. No? As long as you stay calm, you can do it. No?
Yeah.
What won't work at all is like to go crazy, panic, try and fight the situation. The cave will always be stronger then, for sure.
Have you found it's changed your personality going through cave diving?
I think it definitely has. It definitely has. But how much, I don't know. Maybe I was always crazy, and that just made it worse. I don't know. But sure, like working on problems, deciding, for example, in problem solving, which is my biggest problem. I had to take care of this first and then the next and make it step by step. instead of like do step 3 before I did step 1. That definitely helped. And I'm just, when he asked me that, I just wondering if like, oh, do I do that the same way up here, like above water, above ground? And I think no, I don't. It's like I function better underground, I think. For sure.
Yeah. Do you do much?
Yeah.
Is there any dry caves? Do you do any dry caving if there is?
Not if I don't have to. It's like it's hard work. It's like you have to carry stuff. You have to, like you fall down, it's a rock and all this kind of stuff. No.
Oh well,
Like, if I don't have to, I don't.
Yeah.
But there is dry caving too, for sure. Not a lot because there's not a lot of elevation in this area. So everything is kind of flooded. But there is dry caving, and I leave that to others.
I had. Do you know Phil Short?
I've heard that name for sure.
Well, I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and we got on really well. And that's more he's a sump diver, and it doesn't appeal to me that going through really murky water and then walking for about 10 kilometres to the next bit of water with all your gear, and it's not like a nicely trodden path, is it? It's up and down, and
I said, I leave that to you. Knock yourself out, for sure.
What would you say with your gear configuration? Have you made any developments yourself with how Sidemount goes? Have you made any changes to the sort of stereotypical Sidemount diver setup?
With Sidemount, we started diving. I started Sidemount diving right away when I came here. I realized quickly that that's the way to go. Even so, everything was still in back mount, and all teaching, everything was in back mount. And we even started exploring in back mount, and then when it became smaller, we said, oh, we can't fit through here, we need to come back in side mount. So we changed to side mount, which was side mount configurations, which we built up by ourselves with like an old scuba jacket, add some D-rings to it on the bottom.
Yeah.
The bungee up on top was usually a bicycle inner tube.
Really?
Double that up, put it into the jacket, and you had 2 loops on the side.
Yeah.
And it worked all perfect. And you make changes on your gear constantly. To new idea, let's see if that works better, And yeah, that was great times. It was a lot of fun to play around with the gear. And then we went exploring, went through the restriction, and if it did go, we had to keep going on side mount because we always had to go through the restriction. But if it didn't go, we went back to back mount and kept going again and back. And then at some point, side mount, with side mount, you get everywhere. Where you don't get with side mount, you don't get. No, but why changing back and forwards to back mount? Plus, I do have this better safety. In cave diving, you're supposed to take care of yourself, not relying on your buddy. And with this gear, I don't have to share air. No, that's why it was invented in the first place, and that's the better gear to use. And now that's one point I want to make. It's like today, everybody puts long hoses on side mount. That's totally stupid.
Yeah.
Why? The equipment was made to not share air.
Good point.
And now you put long hoses on, it kills the purpose. It's
right.
I would like to whip people with their damn long hoses when they have them on the side.
Really? That's brilliant. Well, that's all I've known. So I mean, obviously, I'm not a cave diver, not yet. So that's probably why. But it does work for the configurations I'm in, but it's not, I suppose, authentic.
No, it's not. If you have a long hose on it, it's not. And everyone else out there with long hoses on their side mount, it's not.
Right. Well, here's a question for you because I'm really struggling. I have had proper training. But if I look through different agencies, different people talk about where they put the bolt snaps on the cylinders, whether they're aluminium or steel.
Yeah.
Can you give me any advice? What's your preference? Where you put them?
Whatever floats your boat, man. Whatever works. No?
Yeah.
Whatever works best for you should be how you want to dive in. No?
All right.
And I mean, you want to keep your profile as clean as possible. You don't want to have your tanks floating up behind you. You don't want that. You want to be nice and flattened out like a razor blade. You know? And that's how you need to play around with the gear and do whatever works best for you, and don't care too much what people say, because if you listen to people, what's the best jacket, what's the best light, what's the best agency? Oh, I can't listen to that anymore.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I've just had my cylinders serviced and cleaned.
Yeah.
And stupidly, I didn't mark off where my bolt snaps were. So they've two come off, they've cleaned them all down, given me back, and I'm like, where do I put these? So I started looking through my paperwork, and I've got two different ideas. But where I've put them back, where I think is the correct place, my short hoses, my inflation hoses that come off the ends, they're ever so slightly bent now, because the cylinders, although sat right when I'm in the water, when they're dry, they kind of moved in or out. I forget which way now. So that's kind of why I asked it, not because I'm agency fighting. I don't care.
No. I usually put my tank bands really low down.
Yeah.
Maybe from the bottom that much up.
Yeah.
That's all. So if there's not a lot of tank behind the band, it can't float up very high. That's one. And have the bolt snaps pretty much in the inside, so the tanks won't turn around. But that's my personal preference. It's just playing around. Use it, change it a bit on the next dive, and you see if they hang better, and then change them again.
Yeah, happy days. So let's get back onto this exploration, this Holbox fracture, and it being an all-girl team. Was it quite a hard decision to pick the team?
Not at all.
The prettiest girls, tick, tick, tick.
No. I know them all.
Yeah.
No? I have met them over the years here in Mexico, or at the DEMA show in the States, or wherever I met them before.
Yeah.
And they just made a perfect match. And actually, the idea of the Xunaan Ha project started at DEMA, and talking to Ellen Couillards, which is part of the team. And as we were talking about it and getting more like pictured and like, wow, this would be great. Which is, hey, Ranva's over there and Maria's here. And we just saw him at DEMA, and talked to Maria wasn't there, sorry, but whatever.
Right.
We talked to her later and said, hey, these divers, they are great, and two of them are living here in Tulum, so be around them all the time. It was pretty quick to decide who would be capable and good for that project.
Is there quite a big sort of support, like a logistics element, because of where you're going to work? Is there quite a big team behind getting those 6 girls in the water and yourself?
Sure, there will be me, because I know where the Cenotes are, right? It's like good to know, and a whole bunch of porters.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a film team too,
right,
to basically, or to document the whole thing, because it's totally worth it. I think it will be a great project, first of its kind. So this really, really good divers going out there, and they're not 40, 50-year-old men, bald and.
whoa! I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm not that bald yet.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
You're doing all right.
No, it will be great, I think.
Yeah. And
it will be totally worth it to document, and hopefully also do it again and again, because it's.
I'd definitely like to get involved. Just putting it out there. If you need a porter, I'll self-fund. I'll fly out. I'll give you a lift. But joking aside, is there any sort of special configurations that they're going to dive? Is anyone going to dive rebreathers, anything like that? Or is it not really warranted because of the depths?
I think first it should be started with Sidemount. No, we should dive smart there. I think Sidemount 2 tanks is where we start, and then you see how the cave goes, and then you probably. I think the cave will go well, so probably you have to add soon stage tanks. 1 stage, 2 stages, and that gives you in this depth which we have here already 4-hour dive times. And you do not deal with electronics underwater, which I do prefer. No, but I will also not limit. I'm not gonna be there and say this is how we do it. No, the whole thing is pretty much the women's decisions what they want to do.
I get it.
No, if they want to dive their rebreathers, I will not hold them back. No, they can do it. I mean, it's not depending on what I say. It's not gonna be me saying how they're supposed to explore. It's them going exploring. I'm helping with logistics. I'm helping showing where these places are, and I profit of it by hopefully them finding part of the Holbox fracture, which is the big picture I wanna show. No.
Yeah.
And I just might give suggestions. Is that what it's called? Suggestions, yes. What gear to use in the beginning, and if they find big power cave with good depths for it and they want to use their rebreathers, well, that's all their decision. If they want to do that, they should do it. No, I'm not going to limit anyone or say, hey, dive this because that's what I think makes more sense. No.
That's good, isn't it? Because like you said, the 40 or 50-year-old man or men are generically what you would see in the magazines, in the films, on YouTube. So it's quite refreshing, I think, to see younger people nowadays coming through in the magazines and on YouTube doing stuff. So if they're making all their own decisions, they're actually doing the expedition and exploration, it's sort of opening a pathway for other people as much as it is for you within your business.
We old farts have to step aside.
Nah.
Let's get the next generation in.
Yeah. They'll have to wait. I've not done 10 years yet. So generally speaking, what's your day job? Do you teach people cave diving? Do you take people on explorations? What do you do day to day?
It used to be, let's say if it comes back. I'm not sure about that because that Corona thing is really doing bad for us. And if divers don't come back sooner or later, I don't know how long I can hold on to that or say, everything will be like it was. I do run my little dive shop and my little hotel and finance that way my explorations. But I don't want to stop exploring because that's my passion, But maybe I have to look for another job to make some.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no divers here, or very little, and the market is, or the dive shops and instructors which are here waiting for the same thing. That divers come back. It's not enough for everyone.
No. Well, I'll come and see you in December, mate. I'll bring you a brew mug. We'll have a coffee.
All right.
We'll go for a dive. That's if you're around. If you've not already closed down.
Yes. I'll be around. Don't know if the shop is open, but I'll be around. And we have tanks, so we can go diving, no problem.
Yeah. Is there? I mean, I know this is well off what you normally do, but I was told by a friend of mine that there's a bull shark migration that normally comes through the end of the year. Is that worth going and having a look at, do you think?
No, never did it.
My mate said exactly the same. I was like, is there any diving like on the coast? He went, don't know, why would I go and look at that? There's caves to go diving.
Exactly.
Like, no way.
No, my 22 years here, did maybe 50 dives in the ocean. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah. In the beginning, when I had to teach open water.
Yeah.
And done with that.
Brilliant, mate. So, what have you got planned for the rest of the day?
Exploring.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Nice.
I have 3 friends here from Switzerland. They made it, thankfully. They came over, and let's see if they can be able to go back home. But they made it here. That's what counts. And we're actually looking at a cave today nobody had been into. So,
nice one.
Yeah.
Well, have a safe dive, mate, and hopefully I get to see you in December. We'll have a chat, have a brew, catch up.
There we go.
All right, well, have a nice day. Thanks for your time.
You too. Thank you for having me.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye out there.
Cheers.
And take your long hoses up the side now.
I will do, buddy.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
So that brings us to an end of episode 39 with my friend Robbie Schmittner. Links to all the things we discussed are in the podcast notes. You've been listening to Are You a Scuba Diver? Fancy a Brew podcast with me, Andy the Northern Diver. You can find more scuba related content on my YouTube channel, and the link is in the podcast notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. And to become a patron of the podcast, then visit www.patreon.com/Fancy a Brew. There you'll see all the different levels of subscription and how to join the Fancy a Brew community. If there's someone or something you'd like us to discuss, then let us know via our Facebook page. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.